Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tipoff 2025-2026. I'm Ron Poniewasz, Newcastle News Sports Editor, joined by Mr. Larry Kelly, a member of the Luxembourg Garbett Kelly and George Law Firm, also an assistant baseball coach at Penn State Shenango, under the tutelage of, under the direction of Carmen Nocera. And he was also a former varsity baseball coach at Shenango High School, WPIL champ and state runner-up. He served on Ralph Blundell's basketball staff at Newcastle for many years. Larry Kelly, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ronnie. It's always a pleasure to be here. And, today we're going to start with something that's a little bit solemn because, one of the legends of the Red Hurricane brand, maybe you could call him the epitome of a Red Hurricane. He stood for everything that we believe in as a Newcastle athlete. Passed away this week suddenly, unexpectedly, and that was Billy Humphrey.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Billy and I, we coached together on Coach Belundo's staff for 16 years. And I got to watch him every day. And I can unequivocally say that no coach has ever done more for the student athletes in Newcastle than Billy Humphrey. I grieve for his family, his wife Karen, his three sons, Anthony, William, and Jimmy. But I also grieve for the athletes at Newcastle whose lives were touched by Billy, because their loss is also immeasurable. I saw firsthand how he invested himself in their lives to not only make them better players, but as John Wooden always preached, to make them better people. And nobody was better at that than Billy. So, these young men whose lives he touched for probably 30 years, not only lost a good coach, but also a mentor and a man who truly cared about their well-being. Billy stood for everything that was right in this world, and everything that we taught and preached at Newcastle High School. If you're an athlete, if you're a student, if you're a teacher, the spirit of the Red Hurricane, nobody exemplified that spirit more than Billy Humphrey. And so my condolences to his family, but also my condolences to the young men who won't have him in their life. It's a sad day.
Absolutely. He's been with the Newcastle boys basketball program, from what I read, as far back as 2011. So he interacted with many great players throughout the years. And he was a staple on that Newcastle basketball coaching staff, year in and year out. Same faces, return every year with Ralph. And he'll be missed, as you said. And from what I've read, nobody has a bad thing to say about Coach Humphrey. He was a great teacher of life lessons in basketball, and that's how you would want to be remembered when your time comes up. And that's how Coach Humphrey is remembered, as being an excellent human being.
An excellent human being. I read that over and over and over again. He truly was that.
Mm-hmm.
He stood for everything that was good in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to miss my man. I'm going to miss him.
Yeah, quite a shock to those around the county, not just limited to Newcastle High School and the Newcastle High School community, but a great shock to everybody throughout Lawrence County as a whole.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Anything else, Larry, that you'd like to say in closing on Coach Humphrey?
As I said, nobody exemplified the spirit of the Red Hurricane better than Billy. And for those who know what that means and can appreciate what that's all about, that's about as high of praise as you can give a man. My condolences to his family.
As I mentioned earlier, his coaching background as far as basketball goes back to 2011. I would imagine you've known him even further back than that. Is that correct?
Oh, I've known Billy since I've been in my 20s. You know, he was a great athlete. He was a fierce competitor. You know, after college, we always would play in, you know, basketball leagues around the county. And I still have some marks on the side of my head from elbows that he hit me with. He was a tough dude, man. He was a tough dude. But just, you know, just a wonderful human being. Touched a lot of lives, Ronnie, and that's what it's all about. We touched a lot of lives. If you can leave this world a little better than you found it, then you've made a difference. And that's what he did.
I echo Larry Kelly's sentiments as far as my condolences and thoughts to the Humphrey family, as well as the Newcastle community, for losing such a great human being, gone far too soon. Basketball coach, assistant coach at Newcastle, Billy Humphrey. We have more to do on Tip-Off, and we'll do that next here on Tip-Off.
We all know there's an advantage to being the home team, to playing at home. And at LGKG, we have been your home team for personal injury cases involving automobile accidents and workers' compensation claims for over 90 years. At LGKG, over 10,000 clients have trusted us to represent them. We know how to present your case to a Western Pennsylvania jury. We know what makes them tick. We know how to win.
We're back with you here on Tip-Off, and we will tell you a little bit about our Athlete of the Week, and it's going to be the Neshannock High girls basketball team for its second place finish at the PIAA Class 2A Championship last week, losing 55-39 to Berlin Brothersvalley in the championship game. And Larry, all through the year, you know, we marveled at the Lady Lancers and how they were just running teams off the court. Regular season, WPIAL playoffs, you name it. And I even asked you the question, they're either this darn good and maybe even should be put in the WNBA or we'll find out in the state playoffs. It took them all the way to the state championship game. But that was a great team that they ran up against, and that team repeated as state champs.
Yeah. You know, I think if Luann was being truthful, it would be hard to admit, but Berlin Brothers was probably a better team than Neshannock. And that's no slap in the face. When you get to the state championship game, you are the best team in the western part of Pennsylvania and the second best team in the state. That's pretty impressive resume. I've lived that resume myself. You know, winning the Whippeal Championship's a big deal. Being the state Western champ is a big deal. And if you get beat in the state championship game, you would only hope that it was a team that you could look in the mirror and say, okay, at least on this night, they were a little better than us. And, you know, the one measuring stick that I always look at, you know, because it says a lot about what you're doing defensively and what you're doing offensively, is how many times do you get to the line? And Berlin Brothers shot 24 foul shots and were 17 for 24. And Neshannock, they shot 8. And they were 5 for 8. And, you know, a lot of that has to do with your defense keeping them out of the paint and offensively getting paint touches. And Berlin Brothers just was, on that night, they were better. And you can live with that. You can live with that. If you get beat by a team that maybe is a little bit better than you, you can live with that. But it certainly doesn't diminish all that these young women accomplished. As I said a couple of times on our show, Ronnie, there's a fine line between a great season, which Neshannock had. In fact, I would say a special season, because when you're the Whippeal champs, that's special. You've had a special season. And I've always felt that, winning the Whippeal championship's a big deal. And if you could win the state, that's icing on the cake. And Neshannock just didn't get to ice their cake this year.
Yeah, and let's not forget, along the way, they avenged last year's loss to Kennedy Catholic. And then, what do you have left after that one? Well, they proved it on the court. They beat Bishop McCourt. 2 straight games where, you can look at it and say, this is anybody's game. And both games were close. They had similar scores, I think, right around 61-56 and maybe 61-57. So they really proved it all season long, just how good they were.
The fact that Berlin Brothers held them to 39 points and only allowed them to shoot 8 foul shots tells you how good they were defensively. Mm-hmm. There haven't been too many teams hold the Lancers under 40 points all year. They've been putting up pretty regularly 60 or more a game. So, Berlin Brothers, they did it on the defensive end here. And they say championships are won with defense. And that's what looked like happened in the state championship game this year.
As I mentioned, 26-4 is what Neshannock finished at. They lose 3 seniors. We'll get into their roster here shortly, but right off the top, they lose 3 seniors to graduation: Nina Medor, Peyton Newman, and Jaden Nogay. Those seniors compiled the following credentials: 87 and 26 overall, 4 section titles. I believe one of them was outright and might have shared the other 3. 2 WPIL championship game appearances with 1 WPIL title and 1 state runner-up. You can't get much better than that over a 4-year stretch.
That's pretty impressive credentials, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're going to miss these 3 young ladies because all 3 of them played huge roles in the success that Neshannock had this year. All 3 of them. They were great players for the Lancers. And, the cupboard isn't bare, but they're going to miss these 3 girls.
Right. That's kind of what I wrote after last week. Cupboard isn't bare. Luann Grabowski hit a milestone of her own, going over 800 wins. She reached the 800 win mark against Kennedy Catholic. She goes into next season with a record of 801 and 334. A lot of people will say, well, that's individual. That's specific to her. But, the players have to go out there and execute their teachings, what they were taught by Coach Grabowski, and they've done a great job. Not only this group, but her players from years gone by, and this senior class certainly, carried that banner with the 87 and 26 record.
It's all about the players, Ronnie. It is, but we're coaching, and Luann's a lot like Ralph. I thought, all these coaches know the X's and the O's, But I thought what made Newcastle successful, and the same can be said of Neshannock, is Ralph and Luann, they get their teams to play harder for 4 quarters than their opponents. They get them to play with more focus, more intensity, and mental toughness. And you all add all of that in, and your good things are going to happen. I always felt that the 2 most important attributes to any team are laser focus and mental toughness, especially in hoops, because there's always ebbs and flows in a basketball game. Mm-hmm. Basketball is a game of runs. And when that run is not going your way, you got to be mentally tough and stay the course. Luann and Ralph both have been able to get their teams to do that consistently for a long, long time now. And that's why they are as successful as they are.
As I mentioned, we're going to talk about the entire roster, or at least mention them anyways. Nina Medor, Peyton Newman, and Jaden Nogay are the seniors. The junior class is comprised of Ainsley Allison, Sophia Bonner, and Lily Rowe. Sophomores are Maddie Arrow, Taylor Guza, Mia Holmstrup, and Anna Miesel. And your freshman class are made up of Lily Kane, Kendall Farrell, Marika Miesel, and Sophie Eulis. Those are the players on the preseason roster. I do not believe any others came along after that, but those are the young ladies that make up the Neshannock girls basketball team. And as I mentioned, and you mentioned it as well, the cupboard is not bare. The fact that they lose Jaden Nogue, Peyton Newman, and Nina Medor, those are going to be three big losses, but they still have players that got significant playing time, if for one reason or another, whether they were in the starting lineup or they saw playing time because they were so far ahead in a lot of games.
Yeah, the cupboard's never bare at Neshannock. And again, their program, a lot like Newcastle, the only 2 months that you have off are April and August. And after that, you're in the gym. And, Luann will coach an AAU team that is comprised of most of her players. And she'll coach the junior high team in the fall. And then it's back to varsity basketball, starting in November. So I expect success again from Neshannock and from Newcastle. It doesn't change very often. It's you know what to expect.
And one probably chief reason that the cupboard's not bare for Neshannock is these girls have been playing for Coach Grabowski for how many years now, as she works with the junior high program. So, it's not just the fact that they got playing time this year. It's the teaching that Luann has provided them for several years now, even at the lower levels.
The mindset gets cemented, when you get a chance to work with the players year after year, and they know your philosophy, they know what you're looking for, they know what's acceptable and what isn't. And that's really valuable. That is really, really valuable. Kind of that the mindset has been embedded when they start repeating what you say. Now, sometimes they would, when I was coaching at Chenango High School, those guys I hear them saying what I say. And a lot of times it was in jest, but I would smile and say, okay, we're on the same wavelength now. They got it. They know what we're looking for. And I'm sure the same thing is happening at Neshannock.
And we've mentioned the players for Neshannock, the coaches, obviously Luann Grabowski, head coach. She is assisted by Taylor Grabowski, Rod McCormick, and Jessica Shevitz. And Luann has said many times that Jessica Shevitz is a great assistant coach, and we both remember her from Laurel High School when she was the head basketball coach there. So they're in really good hands with the coaching staff as well. A lot of knowledge there.
Staff has been together a long time. Same thing at Newcastle. That staff, and we talked about Billy Humphrey, has been together since Rolf's been there. Same staff since he started.
Mm-hmm.
In 2010, I think was our first year, the 10-11 season.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about basketball is, look, the head coach can't see everything. That's why there's 3 or 4 assistants on the bench who have it's another set of eyes that pick up little things or nuances or something that's being done, by the other team. That again, as an assistant, you relate it to the head coach, and the head coach sends the message. But as a head coach, you can't see everything that's going on. That's
right.
Why there is no championship team that doesn't have good assistants. And normally assistants who have been part of the staff for a long time. And those women that you mentioned have been on the Neshannock staff for a long time. And Newcastle, pretty much our staff's been the same for 16 years.
Right. Larry, anything else you'd like to say in closing here as we wrap up another great season of Tipoff?
It was a great year for local basketball. We had some really Neshannock was a Whitfield champ. Newcastle, the Red Hurricane, had a great season and took it down to the wire twice, in the playoffs. Mohawk had a great season this year with Bobby Fadden. It was a great year for Lawrence County basketball, and a tribute to the players and the coaches who dedicate so much time, to make it happen, Ronnie. I tip my hat.
Yep, I second that. It wasn't the way that we wanted to close up tip-off with the passing of an assistant coach at Newcastle High School and Billy Humphrey, and the Neshannock girls falling short and getting silver. But as you mentioned, it was a great season overall for our county players and teams. More memories were made, just like every year. Basketball is a successful sport around Lawrence County for many teams, not just a select few, for many teams. And the people out there watching us, also lend a hand in our success here at Tipoff, and we thank them for joining us and to let everybody know that Tipoff can be viewed on many different outlets: Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. Pretty much anywhere you log on to a computer and look for stuff, you can find us. Larry Kelly will be there telling you all about local basketball and Newcastle High School, and I'll be along for the ride.
Yes, and our the director of our group ship, Pete Sirianni, right? He's the straw that stirs the drink on this show.
That's right. We thank everybody again. We thank Luxembourg, Garbutt, Kelly and George Law Firm for sponsoring us, for giving us this avenue to bring this to you, because without Larry Kelly and the Luxembourg, Garbutt, Kelly and George Law Firm, this wouldn't be possible to bring it to everyone. So we thank you, Larry, and the law firm for doing that.
Ronnie, this community has been really, really good to me for so many years, and this is just a way for us to give back to the community. And I think the parents and the grandparents and the kids, they really like to hear what we have to say, and oftentimes the accolades that are sent their way on a great year.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's what we have for you, not only tonight, tip off, but for the season. And again, thank you for out there for watching us. Lord willing, we'll be back here in the fall for Gridiron, and then followed by tip off in the right around late November, right around Thanksgiving time. So we look forward to that. He's Larry Kelly. I'm Ron Poniewasz. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the off season.
We all know there's an advantage to playing at home, to being the home team. At LGKG, we've been your home team personal injury attorneys for auto accident and workers' compensation cases for over 90 years. We know what works and how to win. We have all the credentials. At LGKG, we don't take every case. We handpick our clients so that we can give you the attention you deserve.